at ToughTech, we've got a whole range of TPMS solutions. It's connected technologies for demanding environments. And when I talk about demanding environments, we're talking about places like quarries and mines. You know, there's an argument that says a road in the Scottish Highlands is demanding. But when we're talking about demanding, we're talking about rough terrain. We're talking about the hardware having been tested in these environments. The hardware that we use is used on road trains in Australia, where the temperatures are just stupidly high. It's used in Siberia, where it's quite the converse, where it's stupidly cold. Here in Europe and the UK, it's pretty even. Maybe it's not been like that for a couple of years with some of the heat waves we've had. But the bottom line is that the hardware is robust. And what we do here at ToughTech is we connect that. We connect that technology and we put the data in the hands of the fleet manager and the operator, giving them the insight into their tyres.
So we know tyre pressures are important and an integral part of any successful operation. What happens though is that whilst we may be diligent and we can fill the correct pressure in the tyre, once, for example, that lorry has left the depot, well, really, we're unsighted. We don't have an insight into what's happening with the tyres. Now, our tyre pressure monitoring system at ToughTech enables the customer to be able to view and have insight into their tyre performance, pressures, temperatures, for example, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's also able to help you make those business decisions. Now, one of the things I mentioned about tyre pressures is the tyre is just a bag full of air. If, for example, that tyre picks up a puncture, then our system is able to notify whether it's a slow puncture or rapid deflation, and they're able to give the operator and the fleet manager notification of this happening in real time. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important for a number of reasons. Primarily because you want to have an efficient operation delivering goods on time. But at the very worst, it could mean that accidents are prevented and that safety is guaranteed for the operator or driver of that particular machine. Through a web-based system, they're able to view all of the fleet wherever that fleet is in the world and be able to see tyre temperatures, pressures, but there are also a lot of other applications within there. There's also a tracker, there's also a geofence facility. Now, the third solution is where we can integrate our tyre pressure monitoring solution into existing telematics, whether that's at an original equipment manufacturer level or a telematics service provider. So tyre pressure monitoring solutions are available in whatever application a customer chooses.
We've got a strategy with Atlas that goes beyond just TPMS. We're trying to take a perspective that, from a customer point of view, that says, what's important to me in terms of transporting goods around. Now, tyres is the obvious one, but also heavily linked in with load and monitoring the load distribution within a vehicle. We've seen from the feedback that we've seen from our customers that front axle loading in particular is something that VOSA is very keen to monitor people on and prosecute people on. Now, that can happen as a result of a vehicle leaving the depot nicely loaded, making its first drop-off point, taking some of the goods off the trailer, but not redistributing the load that sits on the trailer, and making the second part of the journey to go and to take the load to the second place, offload something then, and then it'd be okay again. So from a fleet point of view, it's left okay and it's come back okay. But what about the journey? And those drop-off points on the journey become blind to the fleet manager. So the first stage for us is to investigate load monitoring in terms of adding the connectivity to current load monitoring solutions so that we can see that journey and we can see the effects of the drop-off points and whether the load is redistributed. But ultimately, we've got tyre data, we've got load data coming through, and that's going to tell us a story. And when it comes to data science and the science that we run over the top of the statistics that we're actually reading, it's going to tell us a picture. It's going to tell us an insight into what's happening with vehicles out on the road. So we want to move to the stage where we're collecting the data and providing the insight and providing the instructions to clearly show what's happening with the tyres, what's happening with the load, and allow the fleet manager an insight that he probably never has had before because that data's not been available and it's not been interpreted in a way that tells him a picture of what's actually happening with the vehicles out there. We've introduced Atlas more of an aftermarket product, and we're also responsible for bringing Pressure Pro products into Europe, Middle East and Africa. We're not precious about customers adopting Atlas. If they do, fantastic. Very often customers have their own telematics or their own screen or their own system in place already. It's important for them to integrate through one system. We recognise that, which is why we're not pushing to say you must have Atlas. The beauty about the Pressure Pro kit is it's easy to interface and it's easy to get that data at the vehicle level. I mean, to some extent, that's exactly what we've done with Atlas. We've taken the product from the Pressure Pro gateway or pulse device and added our own telematics and our own TPMS solution around that. But if a customer wants to do the same thing, then it's quite a straightforward integration. We can either do that through RS-232 or we can do it through using the CAN bus and putting the data onto the CAN bus for the OEM to actually pull that data off and pull it through their own telematic solution. It's quite a straightforward integration. It tends to start off with the usual sort of non-disclosure agreement before we kind of release a document that shows the protocol with which you can actually talk to the gateway and get the information off the gateway. It then just becomes a software integration onto the telematics. Nothing rocket science by any stretch of the imagination. Quite easy for an OEM to do that. Quite easy to utilize the same telematics and internet structure that already exists. Clearly, what we've done with Atlas is create a management application and a way of getting to that data quickly. It's obviously then down to the OEM to recreate that sort of element. But fundamentally, it's quite an easy process. We've done a number of integrations now into OEMs throughout Europe. Pressure Pro in the US have done lots and lots of integrations with different telematics providers and different OEMs. And it's something that we embrace as a process to bring the OEM up to speed and add TPMS onto the solutions.
At ToughTech, we've looked at the various markets where TPMS is needed, but where we've really noticed that people are starting to engage with the technology. Haulage is one particular sector. The tyres are the only thing that come in contact with the road. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's haulage or any other vehicle for that matter. But in the haulage sector, a standard tractor-trailer combination's perhaps got 14 tyres that are in touch with the road, and it's important that those tyres are running at the right pressure. And we've started to see that the industry are acknowledging that there is a requirement for tyre pressure as the cost of fuel goes up, as there is a public demand to keep landfill down. You know, the more tyres that go into landfill because they're worn out quicker than they need to be, the public are really engaging with those environmental issues and the savings, and TPMS can add to that. So where we've noticed with haulage that TPMS is something that they want to engage with, we've had to ensure that our offering meets that market. And we often find that a haulage operator may have a number of tractors, prime movers as they're known, but then they could have double that by way of trailers. And the market works in a very efficient way. You'll have a prime mover that turns up with a trailer full of goods. They'll drop that trailer, they'll then drive round to a different depot, pick up another trailer, and off they go again. So what we've done at ToughTech is ensure that our system works perfectly with the drop and hook market. We've also noticed that trailer manufacturers and trailer operators are looking to have the ability to monitor those trailers separately. Trailers are left overnight in trailer parks, for example. Sometimes those trailers are left at the side of the road, and therefore it's important that whilst that vehicle is left stationary and on its own, that information on that trailer can still be reported. So here at ToughTech, we understood that there was an issue, so we've designed and we've built a piece of technology which enables us to report on the tyre pressures of the trailer completely independently. We can provide the geofencing, we can provide the tracking for that trailer without having to have a prime mover with it. And as part of that, we've worked with the trailer manufacturers to understand what are the other important things for them. So, for example, is there a need to measure that the stabilising legs are in place? Is there a need to measure that the temperature inside the vehicle is correct, especially if you've got a refrigerated trailer? So we have worked with the trailer manufacturers to develop a piece of hardware that goes into the Atlas system, so reports in exactly the same way, but does it independently for trailers. That is something which is completely unique, because whilst there might be other people looking at providing telemetry for trailers, telemetry and TPMS and providing those add-ons is something that we have built because we know that there's a need out there.
ToughTech is all about bringing solutions to industry, and we've got some real exciting future innovative products coming online. I'm really looking forward to be able to distribute those products through our partners, and it's a good time to say we're always looking for partners that have the passion and commitment to deliver those solutions on our behalf and on their customers' behalf.